So you have to actually go in and ask for the book to get a copy. A bit like we talk about the internet now, on YouTube and stuff like that. You have to actually know what you're asking for before you get there. Which is not going to find anything new like that, are you? And one thing I did touch on as well, saying, talking about intuition, I think it was Phil was saying that we've got one thing which doesn't change because we can use our intuition. We've also got books. So please, get books and keep them. And keep old physical stuff. Anyway, let's dive into this now. So I'm going to be... I think I'll jump through this because it's a slightly different angle. I call it the world tour there. There you go. Next to the world, Martin. Where's he gone? Do you want that, Megan? Oh, he's still here. Good.
Not this England, Mark. It's not Martin.
No, it's not Martin. There he is. Here. What I was going to talk about, I've sidetracked myself. You know, if I follow my channel, I do this all the time. I sort of sidetrack myself, so I can't really complain because it's me doing it. What I want to do is, the angle I'm looking at is this idea that there's an idea.
I never do that.
I thought you got me a point.
I will.
I like Guinness, there we are. Anyway, so I'm going to sidetrack myself again now. Guinness. Well, I'm a Guinness in a minute, yeah, but it's the story, do you know the story about Guinness? Oh, I'm just going to get nowhere here. I'm looking first. I can bring slice getting late in the evening, it's after the bar's open. Do you know the story about Guinness? Where's it come from? Where's the name come from?
I have no idea.
No idea, Nick. You all think it's Arthur Guinness, right? Because he was the first mayor of Dublin, but his name wasn't Guinness. His name was McCartan, I think it was. He's from the clan McTartan. And he might have adopted a local village name, but it seems more like the village is named after him. But anyway, so the story goes, they were brewing beer in London, and they introduced this new brewing process, which they call porter. Porter beer. What you do is you burn the hops first, which is why you get this really sort of very bitter taste, a very distinctive taste for things like Guinness. And Arthur Guinness, who was looking for a business to run, was going back and forth to London. And he had a brewery, he set up brewing normal beer. And on the way back, he used to get the ferry, he still do, from Holyhead in North Wales over to Dun Laoghaire in Ireland. And the pub he used to go to there, this is the story, he went in there and he tried this new porter. Because the problem he had, it doesn't travel well. Anyone who drinks Guinness knows it doesn't travel well. So you couldn't take the beer all the way back from London, because the time he got back, it's rude. Because they're brewing it in Gwynedd, which possible route, I might look at it later, it's come from nowhere, isn't it? The name Gwynedd come from Gwynedd, also it's got a Welsh translation, your Gwyn S, so it's like it's holy, which is quite nice for a beer, isn't it? So they claim that's where the recipe came from, and Arthur Guinness said, can I have the recipe, please? And the Welsh being a nice bunch of, there you go, but no problem. And he's gone off and become a millionaire with the recipe from North Wales, so there we go, isn't it? There we go, a little side store. So that's a second YouTube channel, which I should have mentioned, is called Welsh History Stories. Oh God, I forgot my own website there again. And that's mainstream more, it's for children and stuff, and it's like uncontroversial. Is anything uncontroversial? Look, my original thought was to look at why is it an idea suddenly becomes the truth. This is done all the time. And what you find in academia, whatever subject, it doesn't matter, the same thing happens, and it's ridiculous, the dates match up. And this is why I'm really glad I came to this, because you see this idea of resetting. I never thought of it like that before, because you find in all this stuff, with history, you go to 1714, 1715, when the Hanoverians came over and they just chucked out the whole of history. And the whole idea of the Celts was invented, the British and Irish are not Celtic. That's another myth, it was just invented. There's no ancient reference at all, the British, the Irish, no call themselves Celtic. It's because they need to fill the void after they got rid of the real history. Alright, that's the big 1715 rewrite. It all started in 1688, when you had this coup, when they had what they call the Glorious Revolution, when they don't like to call it invasion, but England was invaded. You had William of Orange, the old Stuarts were kicked out, and you got a new city-backed puppet royal family, which you still have, which is Germanic. And the problem was people didn't like it. People were very upset. Why got this Germanic people? They don't even speak English. Don't like it. There's going to be revolutions. And they were really worried, because there were revolutions going on. Not much later, you got the French Revolution, all getting their heads chopped off. You know, another 100 years, the Russians were all getting shot. The one country which didn't have a revolution ever, really, is Britain. Not an official bloodbath like that. You could argue the Civil War's a revolution, but that's another. And sorry, no, don't stay to the subject. I'll stay on the subject. As I say, Oliver Cromwell is real name Oliver Williams, and he had a better claim to the throne than Charles did. Not many people realise that. He could trace his family through the British royal family, whereas Charles II, or Charles I, sorry, who got his head chopped off, couldn't. So when they say he's just this, so that's the only time we've got a real republic or democracy. So of course in history he gets portrayed as a tyrant who cancelled Christmas and all this kind of thing. But the way it works, and you'll see a couple of examples in a second, if I ever get to the first slide, is that someone, usually some posh bloke in Victorian times, comes up with an idea. It's nothing more than an idea. And there might be all sorts of controversies at the time. It seems this joker is just a ridiculous idea. But it just stays around, and at some point something magical seems to happen, where everyone goes, well, that's truth then. And then the problem we have, which we all come across all the time, is that when you present an alternative position, you've got this weird thing that goes on, where before your alternative position can be considered, you have to go to an awful lot of trouble to learn, be qualified, and disprove the existing model. And this is the madness of it. Because people say, well, where's your history degree? Where's your, this guy's a professor of history. Like with you'll see in a minute how to read hieroglyphics. It's so easy. I'm going to show you. You'll learn them in 1 minute. So that's all it takes. It's that easy, okay? But this can't be right, because I'm not an Egyptology professor. So I'm actually in communication with Swansea University, Egyptology department, and Aberystwyth University with the library. And they say, yeah, you need to show your acknowledgement, if you like, your appreciation of the existing paradigm. So basically you waste half your life learning this, just so you've got the right to say, actually, I think this idea might be different. So as this is Flat Earth Britain, I would show some because one of the things we look very quickly now is the idea of a migration in the 6th century from, well, they set off from Wales, but it's a British migration, right? People should feel part of this, to America, right? Now if we look at this map, hang on, I'm going to walk. Not going to sit, don't I? So if we can, oh, look at this. I'll cut this slide, I think. Shit, I was right up there. Right, so the idea is, okay, that this is a ridiculously difficult journey. You see, that's 3,000 miles. Open sea, everyone's going to get lost. It's not going to work, okay? What always makes me wonder, where am I standing on a block somewhere? There we are. Is no one has a problem with, not even on this map, it's so small. Around here somewhere is Easter Island, which is just a dot in this massive Pacific. That's okay. Blokes just in a raft. Blokes in a raft can float through and find that, that's no problem. Whereas this journey across the Atlantic is impossible. And this is a mantra, if you like, a diktat that was started around about 1800 by someone called Powell. Nothing before Columbus, okay? Nothing. It's got to be Native American. And if you don't agree, you're a racist. That's the mad thing about it. It's stupid. The fact you throw all the Native American history out as well, all that's got to go. And they're like, why haven't we got records of this? And they think, no. Nothing's European. It's called independent development. Like exactly the same thing happens there as there, and it's just because that's the way it is, right? You make the same kind of mounds, the same sort of coracles. There's no contact. Whereas the ironic thing is, in Britain, in Wales particularly, it's exactly the opposite. Absolutely nothing ever was invented independently. Nothing. Every single thing ever came from other people. You notice this, it's a British thing. The Romans did it, or the Normans did it, or Saxons did it, or this Hallstatt, or Latin, all these fancy names. They're all absolute nonsense. And that's one of the things we talk about there. Well, one of the instructors I was saying is when I'm doing the Wilson and Blackett, they're getting old, I'm helping take their work on and take them to the next bit and getting the books available. This is how we get around the censorship. We've got to make them available. Anyway, so this again is a matter of perspective, right? Because that's the sort of, these are all projections. Martin's the expert on this. Martin's great on this. I actually asked him for some help on this bit. Because that's the Mercator projection. And there's our massive Atlantic. How on earth are you going to get from there to there? It's obviously possible, yeah? But then if you, and this isn't flat Earth particularly, all right, it's changing projection. It just happens to be the same map as Flat Earth uses. Oops, sorry, as we talk about Easter Island. Oh, I have slides for this, good, isn't it? And that's another one, that's called the Peters projection, which you might be aware of. The idea there is to try and more accurately represent the size in different places. So the difficulty you get, if you are working from a globe or whatever shape, as you get to the end, the tops, you have to stretch it out. You know, if you've got a ball and you're flattening it out. So this is another projection. Just for nonsense, the other one, really, but there you go. Just to give an idea, it's still a long way from Britain to America, okay? But if you just take the same thing and look at this one, which might be a bit small for you to see, this is a different projection. This is from the north, from above, as it were, with the North Pole in the centre, or very similar to the UN flag or the Flat Earth map, which suddenly it looks like that. So suddenly you think, hang on a second, that doesn't look such a bad journey, so who does it? Can you see my little map? Oh, hang on a second. All right, that's a bit better. You can see that there. Hang on a second.
It's never been the same since I sent it back recent.
It's flat, isn't it? No?
Well, this is a projection you see on a Flat Earth map, usually, something like this. Yeah. And yes, so usually North Pole, but it's also a global model as well, so you know, I don't think it makes a big difference either way, but so what you suddenly see, though, is, hang on a second, we're not going to go all the way across there. You can just hop. You've got the Faroe Islands, you can hardly see. Iceland, Greenland, then you've got these places, Newfoundland, suddenly it's an island hop. And this is a very, very easy journey, especially if you think it's an island nation that's been trading with the Mediterranean for thousands of years. Do you reckon there's another area I look at is quite a bit of American hidden history. One of the big stories, as Lee Pennington puts it, there's a big debate in Europe. So in the Bronze Age, where did all the copper come from? And if you go to Minnesota in America, there's this big debate going on, where did all the copper go? So the one hand, there's millions of tons of copper gone missing, the other one, there's millions of tons of copper and no one knows where it came from. Do you think maybe it's a miracle? Someone actually sailed across, you know, this just seems bizarre, doesn't it? So you're not going to get me again, Mr. Speaker. So suddenly you change the perspective, it's not so ridiculous at all. It's pretty clear, there's loads of contact. I know that a lot of people are familiar with Sinclair's, which have gone there in the 13th century. And what you'll find in the book here is loads of references and descriptions of bisons in North America, which go way, way before Columbus, who never even got there anyway. Columbus sort of went to the West Indies. And one thing I want to mention, which only came up recently, a couple of weeks ago, is where did the name America come from? So if you watch my channel and say, oh, Wikipedia, Arctic Circle in. What's this all about? You know, that's one for Martin. Martin will know about this. I don't know what this is. This one's in Sweden. Very weird. This one's in Russia. The Arctic Circle Monument in Salikard, Russia. I don't know what they're about. There you go. All right, so back to that projection. So you can see there, suddenly these things seem a lot more plausible. Okay, now the other thing we've got, which is trying to attempt to use physical evidence, because the idea is, it's great having ideas, but you need to follow the evidence, and hopefully you form your ideas and opinions from where the evidence has taken you. The difficulty we have with archaeology is just appalling for this. You see it in the news. One of the things I do on my channel is when these things come up on the news, because it's every week. We just discovered this detection. There's a stone wall under the ground. We just found a Roman fort. How do you know that's Roman? I mean, how do you know it's a fort? It's just bizarre. And I put them on the spot. I go to these archaeologists and I say, why do you know it's Roman now? So, and then people say, oh, it's based on, you know, done some radiocarbon dating. And I say, we haven't started digging yet. Do you know what it's like I'm talking about? It's still under the ground. And there's a great one, have a look when you get a chance. It's called Fort in the Woods. It's been a big project for about 10 years now. They hate me because I keep giving them a hard time. Because they've even got a little Lego figure of a Roman soldier. And it's called the Roman Fort, you know. And this is how ridiculous it gets, right? Because they said, you go on their website, I don't know if it's still there, it was there. And it's saying on it, there's no record of any Roman presence. It's sort of just below Wirral, it's kind of northwest England. There's no evidence, no written records of anything of the Romans being in that area. There's no records of it being military important. They found a huge stone castle, right? Huge. It would take them decades to build it. It's a massive undertaking. Even the gatehouse is almost, bigger than this room. It's a massive site. And there's no record of the Romans being there. The Romans are supposed to be really good at record keeping. Which army was there? Because they're still fighting at this point. It's been dated somehow, it's 1st century. This is all before they've dug anything, by the way. So somehow they're in hostile territory. You need thousands of people or hundreds of people running for many years to build this great big castle, just going with their official narrative. And so there's no record of any army being there. There's no record of any interest. There's no record of it being important for the Romans. So you think, yes, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one where they consider this might actually be a British-built structure. So you say, go on. There's no record of any Romans there. No. Well, obviously, what we're going to have to do is rewrite our knowledge of the Romans. I kid you not. There's nothing at all Roman about this site. There's no record of being Roman. We have to rewrite the records to make it Roman. That's how determined they are. This is what you're up against. Okay? So what we do have is, one thing we can use ancient writing. So this is a very famous stone. So famous, I almost forgot the name. It's the Grave Creek Stone. And what's amazing about this is you can read this again using the ancient British language. Welsh is the only surviving thing we got near to it, right? You get accused of being a nationalist or something, and just pushing your local flag and all this kind of stuff. It's not about that. It's an ancient language which you can trace all the way back to ancient Assyria. So really, you say we're walking around talking Assyrian, okay? So if you look at this, and the weird thing is, a lot of these read the same way as they do with, we got an arrow or something here, before we get my ears blasted. So you've got these diagonal crosses and a sideways cross, and I use that as a quick example. Just thought of this to show you how Cymroglyphics works, how Colburn works, how American writing works. It's going to take about 2 minutes to give you an idea, okay? So there's a cross there and a cross there, right? It's all done on what's called the rebus principle. So, that's just another mad one, okay? When you look at hieroglyphs, we'll come on to hieroglyphs in a second, the experts have worked out, hang on, it must be a rebus principle. What this means is what it sounds like. So one of the examples usually given, if you look at like Gardner, the famous Egyptologist, there's a picture of a bee, a picture of a leaf. So you go, bee, leaf. Ah, that's belief, right? This is the sounds like principle. So it works in Welsh language, but it works brilliant. The problem they've got, they don't know what the language is. So how can you do something that's based on sounds when you've never heard it and you don't know what it sounds like? It's impossible. Like Coptic died out. The unusual Coptic was ever a language at all. It got resurrected in the 16th century and no one's heard it spoken. You get this like chanting in Egyptian Coptic churches and stuff, but it's like there's no one could speak it. And a guy came along, Anastasius Kilshire, who was a Jesuit in the 16th century, basically rewrote the history of the world. If you want to see a reset, check out his work. Enormous. He had these teams of Jesuits all around the world rewriting histories of China, and they kicked them out, other countries. One of the things he did, he resurrected, so he made up Coptic, and he invented how to read hieroglyphs. Right, a process I talk about. So, the Welsh word for cross is croes. Croes. C-R-O-E-S, right? Croes. Now, it's a very useful word, because if you try to draw, the Welsh language is a very interesting language, very ancient, and almost every word has got more than one meaning. Alright? It's not like it sounds like, it's actually got more than one meaning. It makes you really think about how the language was invented or started, because what you always seem to have is something physical, which you can draw or demonstrate or whatever it is, and something abstract, and it's the same word. Like, how would you draw welcome? How do you draw an abstract concept like welcome? It's really difficult. Well, in Welsh it's not, because you might have seen when you drive over the Severn Bridge and that, you see croeso is welcome. Croeso, cross, welcome. It's that simple. Same in hieroglyphs, same here. Can you see that cross? And the other cross, the sort of diagonal one, is croes, as in to cross over, like cross over a bridge or something. So and it's the same, stunned me, it's only sunk in very recently, that it's this. Quite often, it's actually the same symbols. You can trace them all the way back to ancient Egypt. So that makes you think how that happened. And all these then, they just form words, okay? Obviously we've got time to go through all now, but there's a translation you can have a quick look at. You can see there the second one, the croiso, welcome, a diagonal cross, crossing over, yeah? Yes, crossing over. So all these just read in very much the same way. And you can see more about that in the book. It's a little bit more complicated. Well, actually, it's not that complicated. It looks weird because we're not using this. I just, a druid told me this. I don't know why I didn't click. The official story, I've left the script complete now. Anyway, the official story is Amerigo Vespucci, some, let's say, the third son in some Portuguese family who's got vaguely connected with America, and it's after his first name, which is weird. Because usually if you name after explorer like Cook Island, you don't put the James Islands. The only people who get first names tend to be royal or saints. Anyway, he's got very little contact, so he seems to be chosen as convenient. Now, if you look at in the 16th century, this is the first, another red herring if you like. Look at the correspondence between someone called John Dee, who's a part of Elizabeth I, an advisor, and Mercator, who's putting together his projections, that first one we saw, the map. His family name was Ap Merrick. So for years I thought, oh, Ap Merrick, that seems far more like it, so he's the map maker. But again, it's a bit of a stretch. You could say, which country you're going to? Well, you know, the one that Ap Merrick's map is about. It almost worked, but it didn't quite work. And then you look at King Arthur. Arthur's father is Merrick. Is there how you say Merrick? Son of in Welsh is Ap Merrick. It's Arthur Ap Merrick. It might actually, well, it does 100% about King Arthur going there, but virtually as certain as you can be that Maddock, who was his, get this right, cousin, or brother or cousin, don't make sure I get that right, but if Maddock went there, and Maddock also Ap Merrick. So in the same way, normally when you discover new land, you name it after your royals back in the base. So when we went over to Manila, it becomes the Philippines after King Philip. And, you know, Virginia is supposed to be after Queen Elizabeth, so America being named after the king at the time, it would have been Merrick. It's named after Merrick. So these ideas, when you hear them, you think, ah, this is ridiculous, where's it come from? It all goes back to this first thing, because we got so used to the one idea that's been ingrained for 2 years, for 200 or 300 years. It's so difficult to get your head around a different idea being put forward. It just seems like ridiculous, and you have to work so much harder, even if it's more logical. I really have to. I just want to share these, but you might all know these pictures. They're Etruscan. You can see the same sort of writing. What tends to happen? The curves come in sometimes. And there's one from America, which you can actually read. Okay, actually, no, this isn't from America. This is an Etruscan one. I just realised which one it is. And you can read that. They all form, same as the croiso. You know the term with the croiso is welcome? It's the same principle with all of it. And the great thing is, it's better than writing, because you don't need to learn to read or write. How weird does that sound? You don't need to learn to read or write. You can just look at it and say, you know, like if I was doing English, you don't have to teach someone that's a B and that's a leaf, belief. There's no reading, there's no alphabet. So a lot of people say that this came before, writing came off the back of hieroglyphs. But hieroglyphs are so brilliant. And the language, so we tried with the language, I wonder if it went the other way around. I'm not really sure which came first or they came together, I don't know. It really makes your mind boggle. Now this one, which was on there, this one is from St. Paul's Cathedral. It's called the St. Paul's Stone, funny enough. And the curious thing about it is, there's a few curious things. One, it was 26 feet down, which was too deep to be Roman. They're Etruscan. You can see the same sort of writing. What tends to happen? The curves come in sometimes. And there's one from America, which you can actually read. Okay, actually, no, this isn't from America. This is an Etruscan one. I just realised which one it is. And you can read that. They all form, same as the croiso. You know the term with the croiso is welcome? It's the same principle with all of it. And the great thing is, it's better than writing, because you don't need to learn to read or write. How weird does that sound? You don't need to learn to read or write. You can just look at it and say, you know, like if I was doing English, you don't have to teach someone that's a B and that's a leaf, belief. There's no reading, there's no alphabet. So a lot of people say that this came before, writing came off the back of hieroglyphs. But hieroglyphs are so brilliant. And the language, so we tried with the language, I wonder if it went the other way around. I'm not really sure which came first, or they came together, I don't know. It really makes your mind boggle. Now this one, which was on there, this one is from St. Paul's Cathedral. It's called the St. Paul's Stone, funny enough. And the curious thing about it is, there was a few curious things. One, it was 26 feet down, which was too deep to be Roman. Is what's the word? Bastardization. Can I say that? So of Cymru. So there's the Cymru is Crimea. So we're talking about this area is the Crimea. So you've got these things, and all the language connections work. And what Wilson and Blackett did, which was absolutely brilliant, because they didn't set out to do this. Originally, we set out about King Arthur. We were going to talk about King Arthur, weren't we? Was by discovering this ancient written language called Colbran. Colbran, C-O-E-L, like Colbran, like the king, old King Colbran. Is that you can follow it all the way back. And the amazing thing is, the old history that used to be taught, before it all got kicked out a couple hundred years ago, checks out with physical evidence. You've got stones with the writing on it, that people speak the same language, you've got all these physical trains to back it up. Whereas the other version, the new version, doesn't have support. Right, let's just whiz through a second now. Okay, so this one, the Celts, we've done that. Otherwise it all just, that's how my humour works, my little cartoons there. There's Brutus. I will lead you to an island that is fertile and very green. And here's the Welsh boy. Does that mean it rains all the time? So after Brutus convincing the Cymru to migrate from sunny Anatolia and come to lovely Britain and Wales.
And gets around.
Apparently we have a family. That's another story. Another book can out soon about the Great Migrations. Right, so here's an example. This is Etruscan. It'll sound like one of those people bring me the holiday snaps, so keep this quick there. If you look at this writing, same writing again, you can read them again. If you go through the books, you'll see how to read them, a little bit clearer on there. Then we've got these old stones. These are from ancient Etruscan. The weird thing is, I've got to say this just quickly, is you can't read Etruscan, okay? Officially, you can't read it. So I'm helping Wilson back with all their old files and all this kind of thing. And one of the things I came across was a letter from the British Museum. It's about 20, 30 years ago, can't remember the date off the top of my head. It's hilarious because Alan Wilson was over there on work. He was working in Italy, and on his weekends, the sort of person he is, on his spare time, he was going around the museums. He said, "Oh my God, I can read this. It's Colbran. No one knows how to read Etruscan. I can read it. Let's tell everyone, right?" So he does this whole thing. We got the books. So I was hoping to do a book on Colbran when I get a chance. This doesn't need a book, really. It's quite easy. Anyway, so comes back to Britain, right, about 1991. So guess what? We can read Etruscan. Isn't it fantastic? Tells the British Museum. I should have scanned the letter into you to see it because you can't believe it, right? Dear Mr. Wilson, thanks a lot. Just to let you know, we can actually we can read Etruscan. I don't know where you get this idea from. Etruscan's been translated years ago. We know all the letters and everything. We just don't know what it says. From the British Museum. I'm serious. We can read it, we just don't know what it says. Well, that's not good, isn't it? So this is unfortunately what we're up against. So you see all these walls plastered over Etruscans, you can see this link. You've got the same writing, the same reading. And I don't know, it's maybe this intuition thing, maybe you've got this yearning to go to Tuscany for your holidays. There's kind of links in there. And then you've got this is Raetia, up in northern Switzerland. All these things were acknowledged, and they don't know how they got there. They said, well, the history books do tell us. And the big key one is, of course, called the Lemnos Stela, which you might hear of. I prefer the word stone, but I like flashy jargon like stela, it just means stone. I got the writing again. This explains the whole journey of how they went from one place to another place, and they pushed the cart with them, which is the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, there's loads there, the same principle, okay? Just want to show you. I'll give you an example of what we're up against, okay? It's a quick one. Isn't that stone remarkable? Not really, is it? A bit rubbish, isn't it? That was on display like that for at least 50 years in the British Museum, with a wall the other side of it. And you went in, that's what guess what's on the other side? The other side looks like that. Isn't it fantastic? Does this tell the story of the migration? Is this what it's talking about, maybe? Could that be a pyramid, ancient Egypt? There's a person right at the top I can't reach. And then you kind of crossing the sea, maybe with a message, the Christian message, the cross is there, look. Or it might just be a cross, but cross as a crossover. Coming to the hilly land. Is the hilly land Wales, Britain? Fascinating, right? Who knows, okay? This was found in a field in Brecon. It's called a Llewellyn Stone. The British Museum bought it for like 20 shillings, I think they paid back in the day. And they displayed it. If you also notice, it's wide at the top and the bottom. Whereas the display in the British Museum is the other way around. It's just upside down. And the bit with all the graphics on is against the wall. Tragic, isn't it? And there's been so much stink by Wilson and Blackett about this and their supporters. They finally turned it around, put it the right way up, and now it's gone. I was checking 6 months ago, it's not there now. It's not on display. Fortunately, we've got a very friendly mayor of Brecon at the moment. Johnny is part of our Britain's Hidden History group. You should all join in. It's great exploring this stuff. There's so much to do. So that's what it looks like in... This is a replica, it's not the real one. It's a replica in the Brecon Museum, which is on the right, along with some other wonderful stones. So I'm going to ask the British Museum, we have our stone back, please, if you don't want it. You're not going to show it. Bizarre, isn't it? So seriously, that is how it's displayed. Upside down, back to front. Amazing, isn't it? It's a scandal. It's an absolute scandal. Another challenge I've had, if you want to challenge your friends, I've been doing this challenge now for 3 years. No one's come up with anything yet. When you go in the British Museum, find any exhibit anywhere in the museum, there's thousands and thousands and thousands, find any with the word British next to them. Not one. Certainly won't find Welsh next to one. You might find found in Britain or found in Wales. Nothing's British in the British Museum. The only thing you'll see is the name tags, and even they become BN. They become BN standing for British Museum. How weird is that? In our National Museum. Well, that's the nearest thing we got to National Museum. Yep, so there goes that stone again. Right, so very quickly, so this is the idea. This is my little sketch attempt, so it doesn't matter if you understand if you don't recognise them. Anybody got any ideas who these people are? Cromwell. I like it. The guy on the left is Champollion, you might have heard of. He's credited with breaking the hieroglyphic code, alright? I want to talk to him just briefly because my subject has become somehow Cymroglyphics, the writing of hieroglyphs. Is the guy on the right, is it the right? Yeah, the right. He's like the cleverest man in Britain at the time. And a fair play, he was clever. He's smart. He's the one who worked out how your eyes see colours. I mean, that's not bad, is it? I mean, fair play, isn't it? You know, why does that look red and that look blue? You know, how does your eye know? Brilliant, right? And there's all sorts of things, like how do you medicate children? You know, if the dosage for an adult is this, how do you work out the dosage for a child? There's loads of Young's laws and Young's things about light, medicine. Absolute genius of his time, okay? So he was the man. So what we had, hieroglyphs just become a big thing. 1798, Napoleon has lost yet another army, this time in Egypt. That's the first one he lost. And he's naffed off, and they left there, okay? It's like, am I getting the hurry up from Mali? No, I think we're alright for a few minutes. Right, so what we got is a big obsession with hieroglyphs. So everyone wants to be the first to crack it, okay? I'll tell you something now, which I was going to say, I'll just say briefly, because it is important what we're talking about as well. The guy on the left, Champollion, Jean-Francois Champollion, the master, the genius, he had, where do you think his training was, or his idea came from, that he knew how to read hieroglyphs and that the language was Coptic? It shocks people, this does. When he was 11 years old, he had a dream. No, that's it. There's no follow-up to it. He turned up Coptic and he'd seen a few hieroglyphs and he dreamt one night, that was it. That's the whole basis of modern Egyptology. His 11-year-old dreamt it. It's madness, isn't it? How mad is that? So he spent his whole life trying to prove it. It's tragically short life. A lot of these people have short lives, which is interesting in itself, by the way, but don't want to get into that weird theory I've got. But he's, so by the time he's a clever guy, by the time he was like 14, 15, he was the world's leading expert in Coptic, which is a weird thing to be an expert in, because no one actually knew how to speak it, but he's made himself an expert. And I have some sympathy for him here, because the revolutionary wars are starting in France. He's middle class, he's going to be drafted in, he's going to be cannon fodder for Napoleon. But he said to the point, what? You don't need to be a soldier, I'm a genius. I've worked out how to read hieroglyphs. Oh, that's brilliant. He's promised Napoleon personally So it's kind of tough to turn around at some point. Hey, look at that idea I had. Guess what? It's not working out. You know, sorry about that. Off you go. Suddenly you're fighting in a Russian campaign. I just want to say one thing about Napoleon. Slight side issue. A little bit trivia is good, isn't it? The military genius. Do you know he's the only commander I can think of? Most commanders, if they lose a big battle, lose an army, they get executed or kicked out or something. All right. Napoleon lost his first army in Egypt and naffed off and got himself home safely. He lost his second army in Russia, supposed to be 500,000 or 1 million men, and naffed off and got home safely. And he lost a third army after the Battle of Waterloo and got home safely. The supposed military genius lost 3 complete armies and is still considered a hero and a genius. Bizarre. Anyway, so they're trying to work out, he's trying to make it work. Thomas, the English have got to win this, right? Because you got revolutionary France saying that we can do better than the old regime, you know, the old kings and everything. And the old kingdom's like, well, hey, we've got to beat them, we're going to win this, we're going to win this. Let's get the cleverest guy we know, Thomas Young, he'll to our side, to dispute Champollion and be the first to crack the hieroglyphs. So there's a real risk. Thomas Young, total respect to him, because he had to, that was the whole thing, you have to do like hieroglyphics first, all these weird ideas they had. He turned around and said, we can't do it because we don't know the language. We can't do it, it's not a solvable problem. And he applied maths, you know, number of letters, number of things, and all this kind of stuff. You can't do it if you don't know the language at the end, so I can't prove the solution. And he walked away from it, fairness to him. Champollion couldn't walk away, as I've explained, and he's also a bit obsessed. So he spent his time trying to ram square holes into round, square pegs into round holes. There's some of the notes they had at the time. They were just guessing, and they weren't even guessing close. And I'll just give one example. This is the most famous, these are called cartouches, another fancy name. See the circle thing, which I haven't drawn very well on this one, around the hieroglyphs. All it means, it looks like a bullet. You know, it's just, that's, you know, these fancy terms, don't put people off. This, anyone know who this is? Whose cartouche this is said to be? Hello? Who? Oh, Thoth! No, good guess though. Anyone else? Who's the most famous Egyptian pharaoh? Ramses, yeah, Tukaru is no good actually. Ramses, I think is the most famous, isn't he? Anyway, Ramses is the one on this one, anyway. So, the problem was, this is what we have to think about. This thinking is the key with all this. What's called a false dichotomy, which I think everyone in this room knows about. False dichotomy. You've got to choose. It's either that answer, or it's that answer. And if I can prove that one's wrong, this one must be right. It's nonsense logic. It's the old, if you're not with me, you're against me kind of logic. It's nonsense. You had 2 arguments. Thomas Young was saying, look, this theory you've got might work some of the time. It's not going to work with Egyptian names, right? It'll only work with modern Greek names and this kind of ridiculous argument they were having. Thomas Young was pretty close, actually, in fairness. And then Champollion went, I know this is Ramses. He predates all that. If I can prove this one, I prove my theory. So what he's done, I get shot in the ear again. He's gone, right, well I know this is a Ra, that's the sun. By the way, in Welsh, still sun. Sun in Welsh is a Ra, or a Ra, they say, that's just a pronunciation thing. It's R-H-A, Ra. Ra, it's still Ra to this day. You can see this language of ancient Egypt running through the Welsh language, constantly. Anyway, so I'm rather going to ignore this. I'm going to pretend that line's not there, just ignore that, because I don't know what that's doing there. This looks like an M, doesn't it? What a bit of luck you've got ancient Egypt using the letter M, it's fantastic. And I know this is a S sound because it's at the end of the ones they tried to work out, like, what's the first ones they had? Alexander, for example, Alexandros and Ptolemies and people like that. So you've got, right, so I've got R, M, S, S. Ramses! He was so excited when he ran down, and I've forgotten the French, but he ran down, I've got it. And he was so excited, the story goes, he fainted and he had to slide in his bed for 3 days, recovering from his excitement. So that was it. He proved it worked on an old Egyptian name. Therefore, Thomas Young, all that thing you said about it not working, out you go, because I proved this. And also, this is the disaster, the big disaster in all. It also proves there's no vowels in hieroglyphs. And this is just the maddest thing, because the first name they translated was Alexandros. There's bloody A at the start of it. There's like 4 vowels. How could it suddenly say there's no vowels? It's mad. But Ptolemies, right? There's like 4 or 5 vowels. No. What's the other one? What's the famous queen? Cleopatra. How many vowels in Cleopatra? It's almost every letter a vowel. No, there's no vowels. It's absolute bonkers. And we're stuck with this. This idea there's no vowels to this day. What it did, you see, was a disaster, because you can do, if there's no vowels showing, you can make any vowels you like. You can call it whatever you want to do. And there's another one where, I'll do a short comparison in a minute, where two things slightly different in two places. Brilliant! That means we can give them different meanings in different places. We can call them whatever we like, and that's the madness we're in. Just to go through quickly on the Welsh, oh my goodness, I've dropped myself in it now because I've got your notes in front of me, but we'll have a go. There's Ra, as in the power, the sun. Some people think this is, what is this? It's the sun. I've got a feeling, look at them, quite a lot of them, that that's the sun. Because people think they're sun worshippers, actually they believe the sun was where the gods lived. So when someone dies, I think the dot appears to say he's now up there in the sun, and before you haven't had the dot, there's a side issue. This is a place. There's a place we're standing on. Ma, the place. So you've got Ra, Ma. This is the venom, because it's root vegetables, simple turnips growing under the ground, under the roots. So it's a venom. This is, they always agreed, binds all the way back. This is a cloak draped over the back of a chair, which in Welsh is segan, so you've got se. So it's Rame says. It works perfectly. No problem at all. You've got your vowels, everything. Because the other thing they got caught up in is English language. You have consonants in vowels, whereas in this, quite often the sound will have the vowel attached. So Ra, you don't need to put an A as well, because it's Ra, it's an R, it's got an R, it's a Ra sound, so it sounds a bit like shorthand, it sounds rather than spelling, okay? And the great thing is then, if you look at it, I've got my button is, oh my goodness. So, but the great thing with the Cymroglyphics, which makes it work brilliantly, is you can read it. So you've got the power of this place, the keeper, and then certainty, certain. That's the certainty. So you can read these as sentences. So it's both. The sad thing is the cartouches are misleading because you think they just spell names, but they don't, they're sentences. So once you get outside that, you're not going to worry about the words, they just read the sentences. Got that in your head? Because we've got another one here. What do you think the experts say that says? No, you're wrong, it still says Ramesses, apparently. Even though there's nothing like it, it's still Ramesses, right? Because we've got the M and the S at the end, haven't we? So it must be, it's not at all, completely different, right? And in Welsh it was brilliantly, it's like the Great War Leader or something like that. Yes, no, but what do you think that says? No, yeah, Ramesses, you can act this, aren't you? You could be an Egyptologist. And that one? Yeah, it's Ramesses, yeah, you can act. We've got a sun and we've got the M there, but we've got no dots in, so it's great fun, isn't it, being an Egyptologist? So that's the official one. We got no vowel, well, apart from the O. Right? Apart from the O and his Y a vowel. Alright, apart from the O and the Y, we've got no vowels, okay? So you can just make them up. But if you do with if you apply the Cymroglyphs, the Welsh thing, you get that. There's a weird one. Why is it, they've agreed this is an E, which is a vowel, by the way, if you're not aware of it, E is a vowel. But you put two E's together, instead of EE, it becomes a Y. It's so much madness. If the mainstream one came along today, this is absolute nonsense. Here's a good example of a vowel. So that's a lion. It's not la, it's le. It's Leon. Leon the lion. Or Flem, sorry, Welsh Flem. So you can read this. That's a door. Port. Portolemes. I'll just show you. Read it. Just quickly. Oops, sorry, did I jump through two? No, there we go. So you can see we actually read a sentence on the right. This is the key. The sentence is the key, all right? I know the grammar sounds a bit weird. It's a pretty one you are. There's like just as they talk in Welsh. If you're a Welsh person, they say, there's a good boy you are. They don't say you are a good boy. There's a good boy you are. The verb is at the end, all right? That's just it's syntax. So supreme one you are, wealthy successor of this place, and then two of anything. Same as French, you know, un deux is God. In Welsh, un doi, and doi is God. So if you see anything repeated, that means it's holy or sacred. So you've got two he's. So you can read the sense that it describes the person, alright? And if you haven't got a cartouche, this all we're interested in is a right-hand column. The one on the left, unfortunately, has thrown everybody off track. It's just an acronym. An acronym, you know, it's made up of the initials. So for example, if the first word you ever saw in the English language was NATO, N-A-T-O, you would be stuffed. You have no idea that it means North Atlantic Treaty Organization. That's what matters, the words, right? The right-hand column. The fact it's pronounced NATO, what is a NATO? You know, what is it? It's nothing, it's an acronym. Like NASA, another favourite in this group, I'm sure. Yeah, never accept the straight answers on there, man. Look at it. Right, so here's one. One is the one, because it's my favourite, really. That there is a big mouth. There's a clue for you. There's a big mouth there, and that's proclaiming, just roch, roch, roch in Welsh, okay? Roch. And then notice at the bottom is a fastening bolt, sicrhau. So what this would mean, as a sentence, is proclaims, roch, with certainty. Proclaims with certainty, alright? This person speaks the truth, you can breathe and everything. And if you did it as an acronym, you would say, Rossi. It's me. So if you look at all the books and everything, you'll see that little symbol there. Just means Rossi, okay? Speak with certainty, utter with certainty. So you can have a lot of fun doing your own names and everything. So my actual first name is Kelvin. Kelvin Ross is my name. So you've got the ones on the left, Kelvin Ross. That'll be a nice cartouche. You can make your own cartouches in the book. All you got to do, find a sentence, or find the words. You can do it in English as well, but you know, find the words that'd be a good fun to describe yourself or someone else. And the initial, all that has to happen is the initial spell, so you can make the sound as well. An acronym, I think that's right. So with me there, this is great, by luck. Hang on a second. I won't go through how you get there, but this is to keep. Oh, the great thing is as well, but just one quick one. They mean the same things everywhere you see them, alright? We don't do the Egyptology trick. What you can do there is if you get an Egyptology dictionary, proper one, as it were proper one, look at me, you'll find pages and pages and pages of possible definitions of each hieroglyph. And it varies. Sometimes it's an ideogram. So it's an idea, it's an indicator, it's a this, it's a that. This one can affect the meaning of that one. It's just rubbish. How can a writing system work like that? How can a writing system take 20, 30 years to learn it? It's like going, oh, finally, it's my 40th birthday, I can read the name on the street. Fantastic. Do you know what? I've walked up down this road 30 years now, wondering what that said. Thank God, eh? Marvellous, isn't it? So for me, it's the keeper of the way. And this is someone writing. Okay? So you've got Kel to keep safe. So I'm the one who keeps the way of writing safe and speaks with certainty. How good is that? Write that for yourself. See, I was one of my little sleepy cartoons, showing you I find funny. So it says this is Wallace Budge, who's a famous Egyptologist, wrote these great big dictionaries which are huge. The first symbol, the bird, a deli, which means a devil, which means a pledge. I mean, that's what it is. That's the total entry, is it? To give you a clue, in the back of this book, there's a dictionary, not even the whole book. There's a dictionary in the back. It's only about 20 pages, there it is. There's 400 hieroglyphs, that's how easy it is. Here's, you need 30 pages just for one symbol. So that's what I said on there, there's Wallace Budge, looking all smug. Of course it's the best dictionary in the world, just look at the bloody size of it! That's all that matters. He's one of my heroes, by the way, Budge. So if you read closely what he says in the introductions, he says this is a load of rubbish. He actually says it. He says you might find like 12, 13 or more definitions of any particular symbol, and please remember these are only suggestions. Unbelievable. How do they get away with it? I'm just going to do one just to give you an idea how these, what's the name? We've given prenoms, they call it, descriptors. So here's a lovely one. There's a snake, Nidir. And Nidir is also not, the negative. And that little cake in the middle, a Titian, T-U-R. And remember the place we saw it before, the horizontal line? So you are not of this place, which is a really poetic way of saying you're immortal. So you see this a lot. There's a one, someone said Batar earlier, this is the official one for Batar. And I would suggest this is where it gets difficult because the alternative community as well gets a bit upset because everyone loves Batar. But actually it says Portis. Portis. You are the vigorous supreme one. Supreme one, you aren't vigorous. Yeah, I can see the breakdown. Supreme one, you aren't vigorous. Portis. So it's more of a title. Alright, just quickly, just to finish off, we got there, here's the comparison. This is called the Champollion comparison. So you know to in Egyptology 101, okay? No, you've already learned how to read hieroglyphs. Just what's the word in Welsh and look at the word it sounds like. You can do it yourself with a dictionary, or you can do the ones you've worked out already. It's that easy. So just a quick one here. Just to give you an idea, this is how they worked it out deducting. They don't know what anything means. A bit like I was telling you the letter about Etruscan. No idea why. No idea why, I don't know, a lion represents an L or a grain of corn represents an E. No idea, just guessing, just by, we're pretty sure that says Cleopatra, we're pretty sure that says Ptolemies, that says Alexandros, and this genius Champollion drew his lines, and the killer is this kind of thing. Why is the hand, or a fist, a D there, and a hand or a fist is a T, sorry, got the wrong way around. This should be a, yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'm confused because this is the official one. It makes more sense when you do out the real one. So the hand there is a D, all right? But in Cleopatra, it's supposed to be a T. Now, if you look at it through the Cymroglyphics, it makes perfect sense because this is the hand or the slap. So it's drws, and there's roch. Remember roch from my name, to proclaim? So if you threaten and proclaim, you're what's called the ruler. You're the one in charge. You're the king. So this is an important little combination. Same combination there, you see? And you'll see it on lots of famous people. You threaten and you tell people what to do. That's how you run a country, all right? So clearly, Cleopatra, foreign name, it's a Greek name. They're trying to make it work as best they can. They've got to fudge it a bit. And it becomes Cleopatra with a duh. That's how you should say it, probably. Or they just fiddle it a bit to make it work. Unfortunately, what they've done is say, this is great. It's a duh there and it's a tut there. They give me different things in different places. So it makes it so much easier. When your translation doesn't fit, it doesn't matter. So what you do, you get your massive budget dictionary out, you look at the suggestions in there, see if any of them work, none of them do, so I'll put another one in. Yeah, and if you're a professor, that goes in the dictionary. That's how it works. I'm not making this up. So you can see this comparison. There's a couple of examples in if you look closely where it's different things, not saying the same thing, where it does in reality. You all mean words. Alright, this there, quickly finish this bit. This is pictograms, my favourite thing. Oh yeah! This, I think, should make assumptions. Makes an ass of you. You're all supposed to say, and me at this point, and I go, yes. So what's going on here, okay? I'll put the official version up. I don't have time to read it now, but officially that's a prisoner being put in his misery by the pharaoh, right? But if you look, his arms aren't bound or anything. He's not tied up. He's actually, his arms are out like this. He's a supplicant. He's agreeing to this. And what you see, a lot going on, it's some weird stuff I was saying. Come on for a second. There's no, what's weird about this thing? Look at the ears. What do the ears look like? Tree. Leaves! They're leaves! Why would you draw a leaf for someone's ear? It doesn't make any sense at all, does it? Unless you know the Welsh word for leaf is dath, and dath means to hold or to keep. Alright, we'll come back to the other chance to look at it properly in a second. Why is a piercing a horn on his head? Well, the Welsh word for horn is coron, which is also a word for crown. So here's the crown. So the crown, he keeps the crown. There's the crown, there's the leaf. So it's actually coron dath is the crown and the leaf. And if you look at his eyes, their mouths look. You see the mouth, the eyes? I mean, you can tell they're eyes, but they actually look like mouths, really. So you've got three mouths. Well, that's to proclaim. Remember the roch? So he's proclaiming. So we've got two of them there. So it's a heroic. If you go for the three mouths, some drawings look more like three mouths than this one. Then you've got that's three, the holy druidic number. So you've got the absolute certainty when he proclaims. And look at the nose. I'll give you a couple of minutes, not so obvious this one. Does the nose remind you of anything the way it's drawn? Hang on. So the nose, I'm not sure why you can see it on his screen, but the nose goes up round there as well. So you've got a kind of bulb, and then come off the top. I'll give a little bit of a clue, it's still a national symbol of a country not far from you. It's a leek. So why has he got an ear? He's got leaves for ears and a leek for a nose. How weird is that? And so you know that the word for the leek is kenin, which gives us the message, kenid. The word for the ear being a leaf is dath, which means to hold or to keep. So he keeps the crown, he utters, you've got the mouth there, the message. Oh, what I also should have said, if you notice, you'll see this a lot on hieroglyphs, he's got three eyebrows, which is a bit weird. And there's a couple of possibilities there. It could be triarch, triarch means the chief. Triarch, people think it's Greek, that's a Welsh word. And also, it can mean bua, like a bow. What I haven't put on here is a curious thing. If you know the emblem for Glamorgan, you'll still see the three, they're more like chevrons now. It's the same symbol, it seems. How weird is that? Alright, so you can see more of these examples. Oh yeah, so this one I'm going to finish with quickly. So if you look actually, this is weird, right? This is a drug ceremony. Have a look at it. I don't know if anyone, people here might know, but back in the 80s and 90s apparently it was very popular, because the brain sits on a membrane fluid, and it's called trepanation, I think, something like that. But anyway, a lot of drug takers apparently were doing it in Amsterdam. You make a little hole in your head, you take out some of the fluid your brain rests on, it does weird things. And you get like visions and trippy stuff and all that kind of thing. But also you'll notice he's got something stuffed up his nose, look. Hang on, I'll make it a bit more obvious. You see he's got like something going into his nose? And then behind him is all like these mushrooms or flowers, I don't know what they are. And look at the feet of the hawk at the top. Do you see something weird on the feet? By the way, this is called the Narmer Palette. It's supposed to be the oldest form of written communication in the world. Very, very ancient, if you go with the narrative, but I don't think it is that old, but that's the official thing. Easy for you. See, there's a regular bird's foot with two claws on it. That's not, is it? It's a hand, and particularly it's a left hand, where it should be a right hand. What's going on here, eh? It's weird, isn't it? It's a bit of a close-up, this bloke who's getting this little thing going on. And if you look just to the right, you can see the needle, and a little reservoir with the fluid in it. If you can see this arrow, there's the needle there, look, that's what he's bashing into his head. There's a little fluid, if on the top, you got this rope going up his nose, look. And the left arm, it's all bonkers, isn't it? How ridiculous would it sound if you realise all this translates if you use Welsh? It makes perfect sense. Right, the first one is we got the hawk or falcon, which is hebog, which is to guide or to conduct. So he's the one conducting it. The left hand significant, because in left hand, I'll just check my notes, chweth. And chweth is, well, so I'll let you see why I do it. Wrong. It can mean wrong or it can mean breath. Same word, right? Not changing anything, it's the same word, breath. So this guy's using a breath, okay? The rope is cool, so you get raf, which means to spread. And if you look, it's going up his nose, isn't it? So what we're actually doing, this is a guide to how to have trippy experience, if you like. This is an initiate going through this ceremony. So you can read through like that, how it's all about the blast up his nose. And there you've got the needle on the right means remarkable, and it's the collection of the liquids. So you can do all that. And you go around, you just read it as well. That's the great thing about it. You haven't got to change anything. You just know what the words are. And this dual meaning kicks in. So that's what the Narmer Palette looks like. They used to mix the paints in the little hole right there. And you can read the official thing if you like at some point. I'll just give you a flavour of it. Well, basically you can read. He's got no idea. Okay, well, I can't. Yeah, the man with the sandals. Oh yeah, another thing, like for example, it mentions on the first one, he's got a lion's tail hanging off his butt. Why would you have a lion's tail hanging off your butt? See, there where my arrow is. Well, the same word for tail is the same word for firstborn in Welsh. So I'm putting the line there. It's the same word in modern Welsh. It's the same word. The tail means firstborn. And the sandals, all these words, this little kettle he's got there, you know, all these words translate. There's loads more anyway, I've got time to go through all. There you go, this is the kind of thing you're up against. A pair of symbols appear next to his head, perhaps indicating his name, Wash, or the region he was from. Above his prisoner is a falcon representing Horus, and it's just complete guesswork. And I'll just to finish there, this is a modern thing still used in the Middle East. It's called a shaduf. And it's, if you see there, it's a counterweighted mechanism for lifting water. Well, bizarrely, right, in Welsh, of course, the sha is the sack, and doof, or as in dŵr these days, was D-O-R-F, old Welsh. Sha doof means the water sack. It's a heck of a coincidence for something like this water sack, isn't it? So you can still see it in the language. And I had a friend who was, whose wife came over from Egypt, because they all speak Arabic now, but there is Egyptian language as well. And she's in a restaurant in West Wales, and you hear Welsh being spoken. Why are you speaking my language? So these links, well, I don't claim to understand them perfectly, but you can see evidence for the links, rather than just this dumbed down version we got in the reset. So getting back to the start there, so I was saying which version has the evidence and which is the one accepted and why. Just because one's been around longer and it's the only way we know, I suppose, isn't it? So you go, so you want to find out about the Cymroglyphics, there's a couple of books on sale, that's what it looks like. It's also available in America now, which is rather nice. That's being picked up over there. So word is getting out there, I think. But I'm very aware that you need to have physical books, I think. You need to have physical, just make notes, remember it, record this, whatever you like. But don't rely on it just being on the internet, because it might not be there next time you look, okay? And this is the book which amazingly came back from the printers 2 days ago, I think it was, or yesterday, lost track of days. Must be 2 days ago, which is a relief. So I went to see Wilson and Blackett, get to have a look and all that kind of thing. This is about, the first volume is all about those migrations to Britain from the Middle East, or from wherever, Assyria, Egypt. And then the second one is the cross over to America and all the evidence. And there's Wilson and Blackett, so there you go, it's a big bunch of different books. And I on every broadcast the word hedwch, which is peace, which could mean like that as a cartouche. You could just do the hawk. But he's got his, I think it's rather nice, his arms are outstretched rather than just a normal picture of a hawk. So you've got a mission of peace then, you've got Hebrun, Gorun, and Donio. So peace is given, and then the beetle. You ever see those beetle scarabs everywhere? Well, in Welsh, chwil is a beetle, and chwilio is the search. So those little beetles are searching for something. It makes perfect sense. Why not beetles? Doesn't make any sense, does it? But bizarrely in Welsh, all these things have two meanings. All these words. Chwil is still the word for beetle today, and chwilio is still a word for search. It's still there. Nothing's changed. All these thousands of years. Or hundreds. However long it is. Alright, so there you go. So thank you very much indeed. This is Welsh. Diolch and hedwch pawb. Peace to everyone. Thank you. Nice to see you again. Time for questions, Martin, or are we moving on?